Hi, this is Sean from Sewing and Vacuum Warehouse in Houston, and today we're going to talk about PDF patterns. Now, these patterns are not the patterns that we remember with our mothers or grandmothers going to the fabric shop and sitting at a table, looking at one of 3 books or 4 books, picking out the pattern, and then going to the big drawers to find it in the right side. These patterns can be ordered online, and you're going to find them for just about anything you want to sew. So the difference between the two is these you're going to print out at home and you're going to tape together. You're going to assemble them at home. There are really great advantages to this. Once you purchase the pattern, you can print it out as many times as you want. They don't really care. You don't have to worry about folding up that tissue paper and putting it back in that envelope. It never fit. So these you're going to print out as many times as you want. They're going to come attached to the instructions for the pattern, and when you get ready to print them out, you're going to start with a page like this. This is going to show you all the pieces and how that they come together. Now, when you begin going through them, again, you're going to see this. Now, when you pull this to the side, this right here, this is obviously fitting nicely on an 8.5 by 11, so you're not going to have to assemble this one, but it's going to come with this type of registration right up here. And this is going to allow you to make sure that this pattern is printed out at the right scale. Almost all patterns are going to be printed out at 100%. This pattern, Can Do Patterns, fantastic pattern company. They do really great instructions, really great printouts. And what they've done here is they've done a dotted line all the way around, meaning that when you get ready to assemble them, anything outside this dotted line is not part of the pattern, so you can cut it away. But right now we're going to check this right here to make sure that this is indeed where it's supposed to be. So I'm just going to come up here and measure this. It's a 1-inch square. We're right in there. So we know that this pattern is perfectly to scale. Now, when I go beyond this, what I'm going to find is this one here. And you see down at the bottom, this is not on one page, which means that you've got a little key here that you want to line up with another page that is going to make this all one piece. And you can see it right here. So when you move this to the side, now here you also have another one, but we haven't found A yet. You've got B, so you know that there's going to be one attached to that. And then going further, we've got C, which is fine. And then we're going to come to the next page, and boom, there's our other A. Now, I've gone ahead and trimmed right here so that I can butt one up against the other. And when I do that, you're going to see that pattern come together. This A now is now a square, so we know that we have completed that. And the next thing to do is tape that. So here are my thoughts on tape. I know this is going to sound a little rambling, but I've done a lot of these patterns, and this is what I've learned about tape. Don't buy the cheap tape. I know that there's one big office mega store, and I used to buy their packages of tape. It would come in a 3-pack, and only one of them had teeth on it to cut it. So you had to take and swap out this on the other plastic pieces. You're trying to hold that. You're trying to do this. It is a mess. So I just went ahead and got a dispenser. You can get the refills much cheaper. It's going to be better in the long run. You're going to curse less. You are going to love sewing more. Just don't buy the cheap stuff. It doesn't work out, and it'll make you crazy. So now I've put these together. I'm just going to take a piece of tape, put it right there. Now that's not going to hold it. I'm going to want to cover this whole thing right here, but I will do that in case I have to do any type of maneuvering. Now right here, we also have the piece for C. Like I said, I am going to just trim this out. If you'll notice that the scissors that I'm using are for paper. Don't use your fabric scissors on your paper. It's going to dull them, and just try to have them all kind of I have one pair of scissors that I use for this kind of stuff, and I just don't make myself crazy. So, you know, that's kind of a recurring theme today. Don't make yourself crazy. So, one piece of tape. I'm going to put it there. And now what I can do is go ahead, because these are in place, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this whole strip. Now, you don't want to just hit the edges or the middle. Go ahead and put it all the way across, like that. Then I'm going to turn it this way. Let's get to C. There we go. Again, I am not wasting tape. Wasting tape would be to put a mark here, to get this pattern crumpled, then I have to go back and I have to retape it. That's going to waste tape. I know exactly what I'm doing at this point. Now you flip it over. Everybody doesn't do this, but I like to keep my patterns longer than normal, or I like to make sure that they kind of serve their purpose without having to print them out over and over again. And whenever you do this reinforcement of tape back here, it makes your pattern stronger. It makes it so whenever you're moving it and you're pinning it, you can do that and it all stays together. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to tape the rest of these, and then we're going to talk about cutting out. All right, through the magic of film and the fact that we can pause while we are filming, this is done in just mere seconds. So to start back here, you've got this diagram of what these pattern pieces should look like. And again, you've got these little smaller pieces that are going to fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and you're not going to have to put them together. And those are going to be here. And you'll see this a lot. Pattern makers will do a larger piece like this, and they'll put their smaller pieces off to the side so that you're not printing and reprinting just to get these small pieces. These pattern pieces are going to tell you a few things. One, you've got this line right here. This line needs to be lined up with the grain of the fabric. You don't want to take this piece and turn it at a diagonal in order to get it onto fabric, because if you do that, you are cutting on the bias. And when you cut on the bias, that fabric will stretch in ways that you really don't want. So this is your grain line right here. It'll also tell you how many of these to cut. We need one exterior fabric and one lining fabric. You've got your grain line here. This is your seam allowance right here. And it's going to say you're going to cut two and they're going to be mirrored, meaning you have one this way, you're going to flip it over and cut it this way. You're going to cut this, flip the pattern over, and cut this way. That way, they go together. And exterior fabric cut line. So you're going to have a little directions depending on what appears in the instructions. Again, here we go. You've got your grain line. It's telling you this is just a lining fabric. This is just an exterior fabric. The reason you have things like this is because often your lining fabric is going to be a cotton, or it's going to be a waterproof canvas. If it is a cotton, probably want to reinforce that with some stabilizer. But your exterior fabric, exterior material is, for a lot of times, is going to be a vinyl or a leather or something like that. So you'll have those patterns. Again, you're going to see you've got one pattern here. This is kind of tucked on the side so you don't have to, you're not going to be wasting a lot of space. Your zipper strip, this is your grain line. And then here's that very first one we started with. So here again, grain line, grain line. Now, when I say grain line, it doesn't have to always go to the long side. A grain line has two directions. You've got the threads that go vertically, and you've got the threads that go horizontally, or the weft and the warp. So the weft is the threads that run side to side. The warp is the threads that run longwise. So as long as that grain line is on here, we can turn it this way if we want to fit it on. Now that's going to change if you decide you are using a directional pattern. If you've got things here like, oh, I don't know, kittens or skulls or something that's less sweet or tragic. I'm not sure why I came up with those two. But so these, once you get this cut out, you are free to either put your fabric or your pattern weights on here so that you can cut around it with a rotary, or pin it to your fabric. I still pin to my fabrics a lot, but when I'm using something like this, there are a couple pins you can use. So this is our standard. Oh, well, that is nothing except a bent pin. We're going to throw that away. Which reminds me, how many people will use the same pins forever and they will keep bending the pins? This kind of goes back to my tape argument. Use the stuff that makes your life easier. You know, in the scheme of things, a bag of pins are not that expensive, so, you know, splurge, live your life. But then you've got these. So this pin, the difference between these are going to be not completely clear at first. Yes, this one's longer, and if you've got something that is a little firmer to pin into, a longer pin works better. But mostly because of the height right here. This top of the pin is not laying flat with the rest of the pin. So whenever you pin this into a paper like this, you're going to get a puckering of that paper, and then you're also going to get a puckering of that fabric. So when you cut this out, it's not completely flat, and so that pattern is going to be a little distorted. Things like this, a pattern like this, probably not going to be a problem, but this type of pin will definitely lie flat, and when it does, you get a better cut. All right, if I was going to do a longer video, I would then pin this to some fabric, cut it out, do the tutorial, but that's not what we're doing this morning. We're just talking about the PDF pattern. Now, I will come back in other videos and kind of touch on this and show you how I cut from there. Because if I'm doing this bag and I'm doing it out of vinyl, I can't pin to vinyl because you can't risk that hole. Plus, vinyl is a little thicker. It's not going to lie flat when you're cutting. If I were pinning, when I cut from vinyl, I will cut this out, lay this down on the back side of the vinyl, do my trace out, and then cut. We'll do that in another video, but today I just kind of wanted to dispel the myth, the concerns about PDF patterns. When you decide that PDF patterns are something that you're comfortable with, the amount of patterns out there just is endless. There are so many things, and even if you are getting something that is not in, you know, your native language. There's a couple patterns I've bought from Germany that I really, really like. And once I look at this, I know how the patterns go together, and I can guess from there. But tell me in the comments, have you been comfortable with the PDF pattern? Are you enjoying PDF patterns? What's your thoughts on this? And remember, always like and subscribe, because we're going to be doing videos like this every week and you don't want to miss any of them. And yeah, thing about the sewing table is there is room for everyone. So enjoy the patterns and enjoy the process.